At Mom's 70th birthday dinner, the room was filled with laughter. My sister Nymeria, as usual, had something to say. She announced to everyone that I would have to pay her if she wanted to live in the house I had bought. Everyone laughed, and the crystal glasses on the table clinked. Someone asked if she had paid anything yet, and Mom's eyes sparkled with proud tears. I turned to Dad. For years I had swallowed my feelings, keeping quiet and doing what was expected. But now the words I had kept inside for decades wanted to come out. "Dad," I said softly, "should I read the papers you signed, or do you want to?" His fork froze halfway to his mouth. His face lost color, and everyone stopped talking. Even Nymeria's smile twitched. For 38 years I had been the quiet, responsible daughter. I kept the peace, cleaned up problems, and made sure the bills were paid. That night, I decided it was time to stop being everyone's safety net. It was time to own my own life. Being a responsible child always sounded like a compliment. But in our house, it really meant, Amaranth will survive anything we throw at her. I was the kid who remembered permission slips, packed my own lunches, and kept my homework done. By middle school, I was the one who shook Dad awake for work and tucked a blanket over Mom when she fell asleep in front of the TV. Nymeria, on the other hand, floated through the same house like she was just a guest. If I cleaned the kitchen, she worked on an art project. If I brought home an A in school, she got a cake for raising a C to a C+. "You just don't understand," Mom would say whenever I complained. "Nymeria needs more support. You're strong, honey. You always land on your feet." That sentence followed me into adulthood like a shadow. Being strong meant that I could be used. I was always expected to hold everything together while Nymeria got what she wanted. By the time I was 30, I had worked through college with scholarships and night jobs. I had tried starting a business twice and failed, but finally, I built a small software company that paid the bills. My parents were living in the same house where we grew up. Dad had high blood pressure. Mom's knees hurt in the winter. They watched travel shows about places they would never see. The first time I had money I could really spend, I did something risky, but in a very old daughter way. I bought them a beach house. Not a huge fancy house. Just a small, two-bedroom house on a quiet stretch of the Carolina coast. The wood on the porch had a soft gray color from the sun and wind. There was a swing on the porch and a big ocean view that made my parents' faces light up with joy. The deed was in my name. I made the down payment from my account. I paid the mortgage. But when I gave them the keys, Dad ran his hand over the railing like he couldn't believe it was real. I said something that felt very dangerous for a responsible child. "This is for you, for us, for family." Somewhere between for you and for family. Everything shifted. Mom started calling it our retirement place. Dad called it the family legacy. Nymeria posted selfies with captions like, "Can't wait to spend summers at my parents' beach house." I told myself it didn't matter what they called it. I had given it freely, so I shouldn't feel hurt. But hurt keeps score. It flared every time Mom asked me not to book certain weekends, because Nymeria had already invited friends. It burned in my chest every time a relative said, "Well, at least Nymeria will have the house someday," like my gift had already been promised to her. The truth hit me one Tuesday afternoon while I was half listening to a Zoom meeting. My cousin Avena texted, "Hey, heard Nymeria met with a realtor at the beach house yesterday. Are you guys selling?" My stomach dropped. Selling? I had never heard anything about it. I stared at the phone, my fingers frozen over the keyboard. And for the first time since buying the house, one clear thought cut through all the noise. Whose house do they think this is anyway? I called Mom before the Zoom meeting ended. She picked up on the second ring, slightly out of breath, like she had run to the phone. "Hey, sweetheart," she said. "Everything okay? Did Nymeria meet with a realtor at the beach house yesterday?" I asked. There was silence. I could hear the TV murmuring in the background and the soft tick of the kitchen clock. Dad coughed somewhere off to the side. "Well," Mom said finally, stretching the word like a bridge to nowhere. "She just wanted to see what the place might be worth. You know, for planning." "Planning what?" I wondered. "It's not on the market." "She's not selling it," Mom said quickly. "She just likes to know things. You know how she is." I knew how she was. I also knew how my parents were when it came to Nymeria. "Mom," I said, keeping my voice calm, "who does Nymeria think the beach house belongs to?" Another pause. I could almost feel her squirming on the other end. "She knows you bought it," Mom said. "We all do. We're very grateful. It's just that we've talked over the years about how one day it would probably go to her. You're successful. You've got your own place. She doesn't have much." There it was again, the family refrain. "You're strong. You land on your feet, so we can stand on your back. Did you tell her it would be hers? I asked. Mom hesitated. We may have said, one day this will be Nymeria's. It just made her feel secure. We didn't want any drama. I laughed a short, shocked laugh. You promised her my house? I said so you wouldn't have drama. It's not like that, Mom protested. It's a family home. You said it yourself, I said. For us, for family. I said that, not you, she replied. We went around in circles. She insisted it was a misunderstanding. I tried to peel back all the nice words to get to the truth. By the end of the call, one thing was clear. In my parents' minds, the beach house existed in a vague future where their verbal promises could override the deed in my name. A few days later, Dad showed up at my door. He never did that. Mom was always the caller, the planner, the organizer. Dad was usually in the background, fixing things, carrying boxes, paying for repairs. Seeing him alone on my front step, hat in hand, made my stomach twist. Hey, Dad, I said. Everything okay? Mom said I should talk to you, he said. Man to man. Or, he gave an awkward half smile. We sat at my dining table. I poured coffee. Neither of us touched it. He stared at his hands for a long time. We might have let Nymeria think the beach house would be hers one day, he said finally. Your mom more than me. It kept the peace. I thought that every time keeping the peace meant me swallowing my feelings so Nymeria wouldn't explode. I said. You didn't have the right to promise that, I added. I bought it. I'm paying for it. He nodded slowly. I know that, he said. We kept thinking you'd be fine no matter what. You always are. And Nymeria? He trailed off. I replied, Nymeria needs more. He winced. That's not fair to you, he said. I can see that now. We sat quietly. The refrigerator hummed. A car passed outside. Come with me to talk to a lawyer, I said at last. Not to fight, just to make everything clear on paper so nobody could say they didn't understand. He sighed like air leaving a balloon that had been stretched too long. All right, he said. I'll go. The lawyer's office was small and cluttered, with diplomas on the wall and a candy dish full of butterscotch on the desk. The lawyer listened carefully as I explained everything. The purchase, the mortgage, the promises, the realtor. Then the lawyer said clearly, even your dad couldn't misinterpret this. The deed is in your daughter's name. That means legally the house is yours. Verbal promises don't change that. But if you want to avoid confusion in the future, we can sign a simple statement saying you are the only owner. Dad looked at me. If I sign this, he asked, Nymeria is going to say we chose her over you. For once, I said quietly, you'd just be choosing the truth. He held my gaze for a long time, then picked up the pen. When he slid the signed papers back across the desk, I felt a weight lift from my chest that I didn't know was there. On the way out, Dad cleared his throat. Your mom wants a big 70th birthday dinner, he said. Near the beach house, family, friends, the whole thing. Sounds nice, I said. He hesitated. Nymeria's planning a speech, he added. That night, as I tucked the lawyer's folder into my bag, an idea began to form. Not a plan for revenge. A plan for finally telling the truth where everyone could hear it. The restaurant Mom chose for her 70th was the kind of place people post online with captions like, feeling blessed. White tablecloths, small candles, old photos on the walls, and the faint sound of waves through open windows. I arrived early. The hostess led me to a long table near the back. A reserved Miller family sign waited in the middle. I put my bag on the chair next to me. Inside the bag was a folder with some papers that Dad had signed. I pressed it against the side of the bag, holding it like a quiet reminder of something important. It felt heavy, but not with weight, heavy with meaning. I had been keeping this for myself, just in case, for a long time. One by one, relatives started walking in. There was an aunt with way too much perfume. I could smell it before she even reached the table. There were cousins I hadn't seen in years. Some of them I barely recognized, like they had grown into new people while I had been busy with work. Then there was one of Dad's old coworkers. He still called me kiddo, even though I was a grown adult with my own life. They all hugged me and smiled, saying how proud they were of me. You've done so well, they said. You're really successful. I smiled politely. But as soon as they said that, they moved on to what they really wanted to talk about. So, how often do you go to the beach house? One of them asked. It must be nice to always have a place by the water. Nymeria says she's going to throw big 4th of July parties there. I bet everyone will want to come. I smiled again and let the words slide past me, like little birds flying by. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Mom and Dad arrived together. Everyone clapped and sang, "Happy birthday." Mom wore a brand new blue dress that made her eyes shine. Dad wore the same sports coat he always wore to graduations and weddings. He didn't need a new one, he just liked it. Nymeria came last. She walked in like she had been waiting for this moment all day. Her hair was perfect, her dress caught the light, and her shoes clicked on the floor. She kissed Mom loudly, hugged Dad tightly, and then sat across from me with a bright, practiced smile. "Hey sis," she said. "You clean up nice." I nodded. Dinner began. First came small, safe topics. The weather. Who had what surgery? Which grandkids were sick? Bread and butter. Salads. Then the main dishes, which were so expensive that Dad whistled, pretending not to care. For a little while, I let myself pretend everything was normal. Like we were just a family celebrating a birthday, not a family with secrets hidden under the table. Then the lights dimmed and the cake came out. White frosting, gold candles, 70 of them flickering like tiny stars. Everyone sang. Mom closed her eyes, made a wish, and blew out all the candles. The room clapped. Mom held a napkin in her hand. "I am so grateful," she said, her voice shaking just a little. "For your father, for my children, for all of you being here. I am very blessed." She squeezed my shoulder as she walked past me, then rested her hand on Nymeria's as she sat back down. All eyes turned to Nymeria. Nymeria stood up, lifting her glass. Her face glowed under the soft lights. "I just want to say a few words about family and the future," she began. My jaw tightened. "Mom and Dad always wanted a house by the water," Nymeria said. "And thanks to Amaranth's success," she pointed at me, "they have that now. We all do. But they also wanted security, a plan. So they put the beach house in my name. One day it will officially be mine. Amaranth can stay there too, but she'll have to pay me if she wants to." Laughter rolled around the table. Someone said, "That's fair. She can afford it." A couple of relatives actually clapped. Mom stared at her napkin. Dad studied his plate. Inside me, something went still. Not hurt, not surprised, just done. I could have smiled, said nothing, and let it slide the way I always did. I could have swallowed it and carried it home like another invisible bill with my name on it. But I didn't. I set my fork down and turned to Dad. "Dad," I said calmly, loud enough that people had to quiet down to hear me. "Should I read the papers you signed, or do you want to?" The laughter died. The hum of the restaurant slid into the background, leaving only the tiny sounds of silverware and napkins. Dad's hand froze. His fork tapped the rim of his plate. Nymeria's bright smile jerked, then flattened. I slid my hand into my bag and felt the stiff edge of the folder. For 38 years, I had been the one who kept the family's secrets so no one would argue. For once, I was going to see what happened when I stopped holding everything together. I pulled the folder out and laid it gently on the tablecloth. The soft thump of cardstock on linen was small, but everyone reacted like I had drawn a weapon. "What is that?" Nymeria demanded, her voice louder than she thought. People around our table hushed, like a sudden storm had rolled over a picnic. I looked at Dad. "Dad," I said, "do you want to explain, or should I?" He swallowed. His Adam's apple bobbed once, twice. "Amaranth," Mom said warningly, "this is not the time." "That's why you always say, isn't it?" I replied, keeping my voice level. "When exactly is the time?" Nymeria rolled her eyes. "Oh, for God's sake," she said. "You're really going to make this about you right now?" "At Mom's birthday, because you can't stand that they're recognizing everything I've done for them." I laughed, but it was short and humorless. "What have you done for them?" I repeated. I opened the folder. There's a certain kind of silence, the kind you hear in hospital waiting rooms, courtrooms, and family gatherings just before someone tells the truth. "This," I said, tapping the top page, "is a statement Dad signed in front of a lawyer 2 weeks ago. It explains who owns the beach house." Aunt Vespera leaned in, like she was watching daytime television. Nymeria snorted. "They already said it's in my name. We all heard it just now. You're embarrassing yourself." I continued. "The deed is in my name. The mortgage is in my name. Every tax bill, every repair, and every insurance payment has come out of my bank account for the last 3 years. Dad signed this. And no one has the right to promise my property to anyone else without my permission." Dad's gaze stayed on his plate, but he didn't argue. I read a short paragraph aloud. It was simple, easy words that anyone could understand. When I finished, I looked up at Nymeria. Her face had gone pale, the kind of pale that comes from shame more than fear. "You went to a lawyer behind our backs," she hissed. "You turned him against me." "He's not against you," I said. "He's finally informed. Mom reached for my arm. Amaranth, honey, this is not how we handle things in this family. No, I said. In this family, we handle things by quietly letting one child be taken advantage of so the other one doesn't feel uncomfortable. A murmur ran through the table. Someone dropped a fork. Someone whispered, "Well, she's not wrong." Nymeria pushed her chair back an inch, gripping her glass tightly. "You've always resented me," she said. "Ever since we were kids. You think you're better because you have a degree and a company. And this isn't about who's better. This," I said, "is about who paid for the house you are planning your life around, like it's your birthright." I turned to Mom. "Did you tell people the house would be hers? Did you let her believe it?" Mom's eyes filled with tears. "We just wanted her to feel safe," she said. "You're strong, Amaranth. You've always landed on your feet." I finished for her. "I know. You told me my whole life. But just because I can survive being taken advantage of doesn't mean you get to keep doing it. At 60 and 70, taken advantage of lands differently than it did at 20. I watched everyone take that in. Dad cleared his throat, a rough, painful sound. "She's right," he said quietly. "We let it go too far. I should never have let anyone think they had a claim on something she bought." Nymeria looked at him like he had hurt her feelings really badly. "You're taking her side?" she asked, her voice shaking a little and cracking. "After everything I've done for you, after being there every single day you've been around," Dad said, his voice tired and soft. "But being there and taking care of someone are not the same thing," I said. For a moment, nobody moved. The air felt heavy, like it was stuck in the room. Then I took a deep breath to calm myself. "Here's what I'm not going to do anymore," I said. "I'm not going to be your secret landlord, your backup plan for money, and your villain all at once. I bought the beach house because I love you. I wanted you to have a place to rest, a place to celebrate birthdays and holidays, and a place to spend time with family." I looked around at my cousins, aunts, uncles, and everyone who had watched us grow up. Their faces were serious. Some of them looked worried, some sad, and some confused. "If you want to use it," I continued, "then don't promise it to anyone behind my back. Don't plan parties there without asking me first. And don't tell people I owe someone else rent for a house I'm paying for." Cousin Avena nodded slowly. "That seems fair," she said softly. Mom wiped at her eyes with a napkin. "So what now?" she whispered. "Are you just going to take it away?" I softened a little because, under all her hurt and anger, she was still the woman who had packed my school lunches, stayed up with me when I was sick, and tucked me into bed when I was scared as a child. "No," I said. "I'm not taking it away. I'm just taking back my place in this family as a daughter, not as someone to use for money or favors." Nymeria pushed her chair back so hard it scraped across the floor. "You'll regret this," she spat. "You've split the family in two. If the truth splits us," I said quietly, "maybe we weren't really whole to begin with." She grabbed her purse and stormed out of the room. A few relatives hurried after her, whispering to each other, their faces full of worry. The rest of us sat in a stunned silence, the kind of silence that people remember for years. At the far end of the table, the birthday cake flickered in the candlelight, untouched, like it was waiting for something that might never happen. Later that night, back at the beach house, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Mom. "Can we talk tomorrow? Just you, me, and Dad, please." I stared at the screen for a long time. Outside, I could hear the steady crash of the ocean waves against the shore. For the first time in a long time, I felt like the house was really mine. The question was whether there was still room inside it for the people I had just told the truth to. Mom and Dad arrived just after 9 the next morning. I heard their old car coming down the gravel driveway before I saw it, and for a moment I felt the old urge to hide. But this time I opened the door. "Coffee's on," I said. "Come in." We sat at the small table facing the water. The ocean filled the quiet until Dad cleared his throat. "We owe you an apology," he said. "A real one." He kept his eyes on his hands as he talked about all the years they had leaned on me, assuming I could take it all. That didn't mean it didn't hurt. Mom admitted that when I bought the beach house, she had quietly told Nymeria, "One day this will be yours," to keep her calm and to avoid fights. She didn't think about how it hurt me. "You taught us both something," I said. "You taught her she could expect what I built. You taught me that love doesn't mean agreeing with everything someone says." They didn't argue with that. "So what happens now?" Mom asked. "Do we need appointments to come here?" "You're my parents," I said. "You're always welcome. But I need you to treat this like my home. Not like a prize or something to promise to someone else. If you want to stay here or bring the grandkids, just ask me." And don't use my name to fix problems you're afraid to deal with. Mom let out a long breath. We should have done that from the start, she said. Dad looked up. And your sister? He asked. Where does this leave her? Right on cue, there was a knock at the door. Mom winced and admitted she had asked Nymeria to come. I could have said no. But I said, let her in. Nymeria stood on the porch in a clean shirt and smudged makeup. She looked tired, sad, and a little nervous. Are you done making speeches? She asked, her sarcasm halfway out. I'm just having coffee, I said. Want some? We sat again. Mom and Dad repeated in simple words what they had just told me. The house was mine. The papers were real. The promises to Nymeria had been wrong. Nymeria stared at the table. I'm scared, she said finally. You have a business and savings. I have you. When you're gone, I don't know what will happen. That fear is real, I said. But taking from me because you're afraid won't make you safe. It will just make both of us angry. What you get from them is their choice. What you get from me is mine. If I help you, it will be because I choose to, not because I'm cornered. We didn't fix our whole childhood that day, but we did agree on some grown-up things. My parents would stop using my generosity to patch things up. And if Nymeria wanted help building a future, she had to ask instead of demand. At the door, hand on the knob, she paused. And the beach house? She asked. It's mine, I said. But there's a guest room with your name on it if you can remember that. She gave a small, tired, almost laugh. I'll try, she said. No promises. That evening, after everyone left and the house was quiet, I stood on the porch and watched the sky turn gold over the water. The boards under my feet felt different. Not lighter, just honest. People like to say blood is thicker than water. What I've learned is that family still needs boundaries. Love without rules isn't noble. It's how you disappear.